All right. I'll start with myself. I'm the director of PBS Plus programming, which is the nationally syndicated service from PBS in Arlington, Virginia. And we release shows that you're probably familiar with on your local PBS station, which includes This Old House, Real South, for those of you who work on Real South, and Austin City Limits, for those of you who are music fans, and many more. We also release foreign dramas and whatnot. But enough about me. In this post-lunch hour, we're going to get a chat with these folks here to learn a little bit about how you as filmmakers can leverage your local partnerships with a member station to bring out the best in your projects, whatever that may be, whether it's a one-off, a short, or a series. So we have our 5 illustrious panels who are from all 5 different stations, as you can see from up there, as well as different backgrounds and different roles at their specific stations. So we have a great array of people here. And I am not going to introduce them, but they will introduce themselves today. So we're going to start. Let's start with Mason down at the very end, and we'll come on down.
Hi, I'm check. One, I think there we go. My name is Mason Mills. I'm with VPM. Virginia's home for public media. So that's in Richmond, Virginia, Charlottesville, and Harrisonburg. So we reach a pretty big swath of people in Virginia. I'm executive producer, work in content, everything from basically programming to documentaries to any kind of content, digital. I mean, we're all working in content, which means whether it's short form, long form, or however. And I come from the production world, just coming out of college, worked part-time at the public media station, which is now VPN. And then over a number of years, just kept growing in different roles. So more to come. Melissa?
Thank you, Mason. My name is Melissa Harmon. I'm with South Florida PBS, where I'm the Principal Director of Content. I've been with South Florida PBS on and off since 1995. I spent 20 years with Nightly Business Report on PBS, in the hot seat as the show's showrunner and senior producer. And when the show went away from South Florida, where it was founded at WPBT2, I went into the private sector for a brief while, working on the digital media. And then I had the opportunity to come back to the station and oversee local production. And it has been a highlight and an honor to tell local stories working with our team. And one of the best projects I've been involved with has been our foray into film, working with our Flip the Script program and with our Filmmaker programs, which I'll tell you a little bit more about in a few minutes. But we've sent over 120 films, local films, national through through NETA. And it's just been really fulfilling.
Fine.
All right. Hi, everyone. I'm Laura Kieler. I'm the Chief Marketing and Chief Content Officer at PBS North Carolina. We are the statewide network in North Carolina. And I joined about 6 years ago in a marketing capacity. Now in my current role, I oversee content development, production, acquisition, distribution across our platform ecosystem, as well as branding and promotion. Prior to joining PBS North Carolina, I built my career at HBO. I started there as an intern, and I'm really grateful for the investment they made in me to build my career within the consumer marketing division. I like to say that it was like a marketer's playground. Think it, imagine it, try it, and what an incredible way to learn and to be connected. And I think one of the things I learned from HBO was just the power of connection through content. It was our audience is a community, and they are so passionate about their favorite shows and programs. And building community through content was something that really resonated with me. And I thought, what better place to do that than public media? And so that's really what drew me back into the PBS ecosystem, because I was a fan from an early age, and now I actually got to bring that content to people so that they could have experiences of learning and discovery and community through the content that PBS produces. So I'm thrilled to be a part of it and to chat a little bit more about the work that we do with local filmmakers.
I'm Courtney Pledgen. Well, hello. Hello. Is it working? Again. CEO of Statewide Network Arkansas PBS. And I think I see things mostly through a content lens as a CEO. My job is strategic direction for the network, as well as everyday management. But I think because of my background in content and my love of content, I kind of tend to see everything at the station kind of first through the lens of content. I'm fairly new to public media compared to some people. I've been here about almost 8 years. I was an independent producer and also a senior production executive on Panelists for quite a while. And I've lived produced in the UK. And the coast is late showing. So, hey, that's good. Yeah. So it's, So I've had, varied background, mostly in production. But I've been fortunate to be the executive director of Hot Springs Documentary Film Festival for 5 years. I was here from 2012 until 2017 when I took the Arkansas PBS job. And I feel like the job at PBS was, faded, because really for most of my career, I have envied the people that I knew who worked in public media and got to work on projects that really mattered to them and mattered to the community.
Hey, I'm Alfonso Whitfield. I've also maybe introduced myself as AJ. So, hello to all of you. I'm a senior producer at WABE in Atlanta, Georgia. And I started at WABE about 5.5 years ago. I'm going on 6 years in January. And, when I first got there, we were just kind of creative services. But now that we have like a large team, oh, yes, and my boss, Alison Hashimoto, is here in the audience, studio head. We have a team of 7 people, and we are producing content with all types of filmmakers and creators in Atlanta. A lot of different shows that we'll get to later, but nice to meet you.
Very cool. They did all much better intro than I would have done for them, so I'm glad they did that for us. To kick things off, I'm going to have each of them talk a little bit about what their specific station offers filmmakers in a general sense. They're not going to touch on specific projects just yet. We'll have a minute for that. But in terms of capacity, what kind of resources they have, what kind of ways that are nuts and bolts that will be beneficial to all of you who are here in the audience with us today. So let's start with, how about Mason again, and we'll just come down this way and share a little bit about what's going on down in Virginia Public Media.
Yeah. Basically what we do, and we'll talk about one thing, one main thing that we do that I think you'll be interested in, because I think a lot of stations or a lot of public media groups may be doing something like this. And it's really, we have a formal submission process now. What we learned very quickly is that there's a lot of ideas that get thrown over the fence, to us. Call you up, email you and say, hey, can we have coffee and let me pitch you an idea? And, sometimes that works out pretty well, but then you start, it really is unfair, because if you don't know me, then how do you know how to contact me? You could find my email, maybe I get it, maybe, we do communicate, but it's a little unfair. So we learned about 3 or 4 years ago, let's have a formal submission process that we don't even let you, put up your pitch deck or anything like that. It's all equal. It just has questions down there, because what we're looking for is, does it line up with things that we want to do? We lay it out there, what we're interested in. We have 3 basic pillars. I won't go over all that, but it's the idea of trying to keep it straightforward to you as a filmmaker, what it is that we're looking for, and then what are you doing that might fit? We've had filmmakers come in that have never produced much before. They have very little to show as an example. We have some that come in with just a record of things that they've done and are nationally known. So we think it's a good idea. The problem really comes down to is the first time we opened it up, we had 70 submissions. And we really had to go through, and about 35 were legitimate. And we're in Central Virginia. We are a public media station. Yes, we have some funds, but we don't have that much, so we have to really parse it out. We have a 3-phase process. The first phase, there's a group of us that lead certain departments, and we go through and we say, okay, these are the ones that seem to line up, and we think, if it gets approved, we'll move on and try to fund or find funding for them or with them. And then the second phase is to get it out into a larger group of people to look at it and give their input. And then the third phase is actually communicating back. We'll communicate all the time, but communicating back and saying, well, we're thinking about this with your project. So I say that just because a lot of us are trying to do those things. And I think that's one of the most important things that we do right now is we're probably green lighting about 5 or 6 a year, sometimes more if they're shorter and smaller, sometimes a little less if they're really big. But I think that's the big project that I want to talk about, because the next thing I'll mention when we get to specifics is something that came out of that. Melissa?
Thank you, Mason. Well, at South Florida PBS, we work with local filmmakers in a couple of ways. We just work with independent producers, and they'll send pitches in. We do have a producing for PBS, for South Florida PBS page on our website that has some guidelines on it. The biggest issue for people coming to PBS to want to get their program on the air, if they fund it, they can't be in it. And that's a hard reality for many, many filmmakers to understand and get that concept. We just don't do that as public media. We don't platform people who pay for projects unless they are the creator of the project, the producer, the whole shebang. We shy away from that. So that's a real hard one for folks. That's why we have that page created that sort of talks about these funding guidelines and things like that are historical to most PBS stations. The other thing that we do is we will sit with you. We have a review process. There are about 4 of us that weigh in on projects. I do an editorial and a technical review on projects and try to get back to producers with very specific comments on the things to the time code. This doesn't work because it's this, or this is beautiful and it really supports the flow of the story. Notes like that really try to help give them some understanding. The other thing is there's not a magical pot of money at a station. There just isn't. It's not our funding model. It's not how it works. But if you've got a project and you've managed to get it on film and get it cut and it's looking good, and it's something that lines up, as Mason said, with the pillars of the areas that we really tend to focus on: education, environment, health and wellness, public affairs, these things. If it lines up with that, there may not be financial support we can give you, but perhaps we can help you with distribution, both locally and nationally. Perhaps we can help you reformat your credits so that it works for PBS, and we can take on that, doing that edit for you so that you're not having to go back and hire someone to do an additional edit on your project. So we try to come up with creative ways to help you that will get your project to air, but may not involve direct funding.
So I'm going to interject really quickly before we go to Laura. In terms of standards and practices, which is what you were alluding to there is a great you just Google this, PBS standards and practices.
Yeah.
And there's an entire web page that will share with you sort of what is editorially acceptable and funding, right? That's always very important. I see Talia in the audience. So she's standards and practices at National. So definitely check that out if you are looking for distribution with your local station or nationally with either PBS Plus or any of the other distribution services that are out there. But I just want to add that little bit there. Go ahead, Laura.
Thank you. Yeah, it's important to take a look at that before it comes into the submission process. When I joined the organization 6 years ago, there was already a very well-established practice for engaging with filmmakers. And that effort started about a decade ago when Rachel Rainey on our team did a listening tour across our state to talk to the filmmaking community and say, how do you want to partner with PBS as your local public media station? How can we support you? And that's really where the foundation of how we work with filmmakers began. So, similar to Mason and Melissa, we have an online portal. All submissions that come through get reviewed. And you will hear back from us usually within a month. Submissions come in, we meet monthly. There's a group of 5 of us, and we have representation from programming, from national productions, myself as head of content, development producer, and we bring others in as needed to evaluate a project. And we accept projects at any stage, right? If you have a concept and you have the story built out and you're looking for a letter of support, we will evaluate that. We'll evaluate projects that want production support or distribution and promotion. And when we review projects, we have similar filters to what's been mentioned already. And we're evaluating, yes, for local acquisition because it's critically important that we're centering North Carolina stories on our network. But we're also sometimes looking for stories that are better distributed elsewhere within the public media system. So sometimes we're the one licensing the content, and sometimes we are a content connector. We will connect you with APT, we'll connect you with PBS Plus, we'll connect you with Real South. And so really, we want the stories to come forward so we can evaluate how best to connect those stories with community. And once you come into our process, you are connected with the entire PBS North Carolina ecosystem, and that includes a 20-person marketing and distribution team. And I think that's a real superpower for us over the last few years. And that's been where my area of focus has been because this foundation was built and it was very strong. So my investment in the local filmmaking community was making sure the organization as a whole really rallied around the efforts that were happening within our national productions team. So we hired a development producer. Rodrigo spoke earlier about, we're not doing our job if we don't know the filmmakers in our community. And that was the point of a development producer. Go out, talk to filmmakers, build relationships, be at film festivals. And so that was an investment we made, along with elevating a selection of projects every year to have paid marketing behind them, events and engagement strategies. And many projects also go on for national distribution. And so that's been an exciting 2.5 years that we've had making an additional investment in our local filmmaking community, and we'll show you the product of that in a few minutes.
Well said. I will piggyback onto what Laura said, that at Arkansas PBS, we also get involved at any and all stages, and we treat each project, individually, what are its needs. And, in 2017, I sort of kicked off my stay at Arkansas PBS with a strategic plan. And at that time, it really, our North Star was creativity. So we decided to just take the top off the box, push the walls out, and look at how we had been doing things and what we didn't need to do anymore, what we needed to do more of. And we looked at creating an overall sort of ecosystem around the station. So we built, actually our team is that corner back in the left over there is a big portion of our team, yay. So we built a highly skilled group of production professionals, and then we've spent time getting to know our filmmaking community and want to continue to do that because it's a very important part of what we do. It's how we diversify our perspectives. It's how we increase our capacity as a state network. We are, in some ways limited by the, size of our staff. So looking at how we can actually build our storytelling capacity by doing that. We also are involved with student filmmakers. We have an emerging filmmaker program that we annually do a workshop here. We support the Brett Renault Foundation's mentorship program of young filmmakers. So both of those workshops are here at the festival on Wednesday afternoon. So I'll just say, come to Arkansas PBS. I hope we have quite a few people in here that we don't know, and we would like to know you.
Yeah, I mean, everybody said a lot of great stuff that I agree with. You know, as a station in a city like Atlanta, where there's a lot of production going on, a lot of independent production, a lot of union productions, it's really important to us at WABE that we are in the community as well. So we kind of reach out in a lot of ways through some programs that program I'll show later. And then also as mentors, I think it's really important that we understand that partnerships with these people, with PBS stations, it's very, it's custom. You know, it depends on what you want to get out of it, but also, again, what can we do and what are our capabilities and does it actually help you? You know, you may come to us with an idea, but maybe we can help you form it and shape it into something that is actually beneficial to both of us. I think, you know, we've had some particular success with building a bit of a community with our filmmakers and independent scene, union scene, and also different producers coming in and out of town. So I think it's important just to get the conversation going, really. As soon as, you know, we start talking to folks, it's very clear to see that, you know, the funding may be a question for you, but if we can connect you, that's what we're here to do. And I like to think we're pretty good at it, and we have a good time doing it, and creating community is what we're here at the festival for, right? So we just keep it going.
Well, that's great. I mean, there were definitely some recurring themes there, which is mentorship. In case you've never worked with public media, that's a big takeaway. I would say start the conversation early. So if you have an idea and it's just on, you know, it's early phases and you think public media is going to be the final home for it, definitely chat early. Sometimes having a finished product that looks great but doesn't have the right funding model or the right way of setting up the production can prevent you from going, you know, onto your local PBS station. So that said, we're gonna get to see some fun clips from all these wonderful stations we have here. So we're gonna go in alphabetical order by first name, and we're going to have you guys tee it up with a couple minutes of talking about what we're about to see, and then we'll share that with the audience here.
Certainly. All right.
Starting with AJ or Alfonso.
Whichever you want to call me today. Maybe tomorrow we'll switch it up. I'll be John. I don't know. Yeah, so the clip I'm going to show is for a production we have called Atlanta on Film. I'm so proud of it. It's a project where we partner with film festivals. Say we partner with the Hot Springs Festival, and we speak to them about what are some films you've shown that you particularly like, or just give us the list and we'll screen them all and pick out what matches our standards and practices and what's in line with what we can show. And then we put together essentially a televised film festival. And in this show, we have 5 to 7 minute interviews with the filmmakers or an actor or actress or whoever is involved with the production, interviewed by a host. We do an anatomy of a scene breakdown of maybe a favorite scene or maybe a moment or just an emotion within the film. And then we show the film. And it's I would think our first season was 2 hours each episode. Our second season has been an hour each episode. And we also do shorts blocks. So we don't really have any kind of boundary with what we want to show. And just if we can get it on, we want to put it on. And I don't have a clip for this, but I do want to mention as well, I meant to mention it in the last section, that some of our partnerships also, like the mentoring partnerships, involve, there's a project that we're working on called How to Be a Dope Artist. And a filmmaker came to us. He already shot the production. He's done all the principal photography, but he just needed a little bit of help sort of mentoring and sort of shaping the project into what it is. So we don't have a trailer for that, but that's another way that we're working with other people outside as well, other filmmakers.
Would you like to roll the clip for Alfonso?
Should we just wait for them inside? The movie's about to start.
Atlanta on Film is back with an all-new season of captivating films and in-depth conversations with the filmmakers behind them.
I'm really drawn to stories where characters struggle to love the people that they love most.
With 23 independent films curated by 2 of Atlanta's most prestigious film festivals, this season of Atlanta on Film is sure to ignite your passion for cinema like never before. Experience a range of stories, from thrilling dramas to insightful documentaries.
She's very surprised that I became a clown.
Each film offering a unique window into the artistry and vision of independent filmmaking. Catch all new episodes starting Saturday, April 6th at 10 p.m. on WABE TV. And stream anytime on wabe.org/Atlanta on Film.
WABE.
That's very catchy.
And that also, that little soundbite is a local Atlanta independent musician. So, we keep it around.
Perfect. Well, I think, Courtney, you're up next.
Okay. I'm going to talk a little bit about, in a minute, I'll talk about upcoming, more recent projects, but I want to mention Southern Storytellers that we did for 2023. It's a 3-part documentary series for PBS on the national schedule. And, with this ecosystem of independence that we have, spent time getting to know and working with, we also were able to involve a number of those makers in Southern Storytellers. So because it was shot all throughout the region, and there were wonderful opportunities for us to get to know them better, for us to get to know us and work on a national show. We recently worked with Andy Sarjahani on a short with ITBS called Wild Hogs and Saffron. You may have seen it. I think it was yesterday. Andy is Iranian American, and he grew up in rural Arkansas. And, what happens when your best friend from high school, you go different ways and you come back together on a hog hunt, and guess what? There's some really interesting conversations that ensue. We're currently working with Nathan Willis, who's an Arkansas filmmaker. Yay, Nathan. Yay. So Nathan, he has partnered with us telling a story of, the parallel lives of Arkansans Johnny Cash and civil rights activist Daisy Bates, and the artistry behind the creation of the sculptures that now stand in Statuary Hall. We joined work with Nathan on that. And then the one I have the clip on is a really unique partnership. It started, we spotted some guys on social media. Actually, one of our board members spotted on social media and said, there's this guy from Arkansas and his Canadian friend that are planning to take on the Northwest Passage in 2 handmade rowboats, essentially. So we reached out to them, partnered with them. They had, some filmmaking experience and camera experience, but they took on basically filming themselves as they navigated the passage. And we had lines of communication open all during this, and they shipped the files back to us. We did the editing and the post-production, and that film is almost done. But let's look at a little clip of Passage.
If anyone at home is wondering where we are right now on the map, right about here somewhere. It's officially the birthday of the Northwest Passage trip.
It wasn't until after we decided we were going to do it that we realized that, no one's ever actually rode this thing in one season. We could be the first ones to ever do this.
That way.
It's one of those few places in the world you're truly wild.
What do you think, Adam? Grizzly or polar bear?
400 or 500 miles between villages, and there's nobody out there.
Weather's gonna get worse, more dangerous.
I feel like we're in over our heads here.
Really afraid this just cost me the trip. It's by far the hardest thing I've ever tried to do.
How far can we take this, and when does it become crazy, you know?
Craziest thing we've ever done.
Craziest thing we've ever done, yeah.
Wow. Thank you, Patricia. Yeah, go Team Arkansas. Laura, if you'd like to go next.
Yeah, absolutely. So back in North Carolina right now, it is state fair season, which is a pretty big deal for the 11 days in October where hundreds of thousands of people come through the state fairgrounds, and situated in the middle of the state fairground is Dorton Arena. And it is this modern architectural gem. And I know it from our tent and our booth being right outside it, and because North Carolina artists and artisans are featuring their work within it. What I didn't know until March of 2023 is that Dorton Arena was also the home of wrestling in North Carolina. And so we get this project coming through our submissions portal from two filmmakers, Chris Lee and Cliff Baumgarter, and one of whom was a wrestler himself. And they said, you know, we have this concept, and here we are going to offer this feature-length film, and it's at the intersection of wrestling and architecture. What do you think? And we kind of just scratched our heads like, that's an interesting combination. Tell us more. And what I found, and what we found so interesting about it, is it's about history, it's about community, it's about culture, but your connection point, your entry point into the story can be so varied based on your relationship with Dorton Arena, or the fact that you used to go to these wrestling matches back in the 80s and 90s in North Carolina. And so the producers came in very early, and that's why I wanted to share this example. They came in 7 months before they had a rough cut. They had a story, they had a list of individuals they wanted to engage in this work, and they were starting photography. It wasn't until October of 2023 that we saw that rough cut, and we stayed in very close conversations with them throughout that editorial process and provided mentorship and guidance. And when we saw that rough cut, we were sold. We're like, we are all in on this. And so we immediately enrolled our marketing division. And this was the main, milestone project for us this past summer in our documentary series that we've released with independent producers. And so this August, we packed 500 people into the Rialto Theater in Raleigh to watch this documentary. People were shouting and cheering and so enthusiastic and engaged, and just absolutely loved it. We made a wrestling name generator, so when you walked in, you could figure out what your wrestling name is and put a name tag on. And so many people said to us, we didn't know that you put this out. And they shared stories of their experience going to Dorton Arena for these wrestling matches. And so I felt like we deepened connections with community through this project. But then we also got people to think about us differently and see themselves in our work in a way that maybe we hadn't before for them. And so it has been such a fun project to work on. And so let's take a look at a clip.
The NWA returns to Raleigh and the Dorton Arena with a super spectacular card.
Dorton was a real magical place.
The ticket prices were $2 and $3, but they would have 5,000 people.
You could feel it in the crowd. It really was almost like a religion.
Dorton Arena was home for wrestling.
We'll toss it over to Mason down there at the end.
You were doing things in alphabetical order, so it's good. So I talked about the submission portal process that we do, but there's another way that we do things, and we have internal ideas, and then we go out and look for independent filmmakers to take those on. And in 2020, in Richmond, Virginia. There were protests going on. There was COVID going on. There was a lot going on. So we decided, let's look at some different independent filmmakers to see if they can tell the stories going on. There were some filmmakers that were already going down and filming the protest every day. That's what they were doing. We figured we'd reach out to them. We put 2 filmmakers together because they were interested in doing this. We said, hey, would you work together? And they did. We funded it. That was produced. We had another group that created one actually for PBS Plus, How the Monuments Came Down. That was at the same time. We worked with another group that did that. But there was another filmmaker that we had met through a local series that we had done. He made a bunch of different films on his own, just, very inexpensively and about things in the community. And we thought, he's out of Charlottesville. Here's something we can go to him and say, hey, are you interested? And he was, and he proposed a project to look at an old community called Vinegar Hill that basically had been wiped out by urban renewal. But the stories were always that this was a rundown, community that wasn't worth anything, and that's why they paved it over and did all that stuff. But as he was learning more and more about this community, he realized, because he grew up around there, and he realized these aren't the stories I'm hearing from my parents and from my family members. It was much more positive, much more community-based. So he wanted to tell that story. And so we commissioned that. Now, what's interesting about that to me is that here comes a filmmaker that's used to doing it all by himself and, showing it kind of on a screen wherever it'll show. And now we're going to broadcast it. And, he came in, his first budget was $25,000, which, most of us know that's a nice budget for somebody that's used to doing it by themselves. But we said, hey, why don't we keep looking at that? And we kept upping it. So we were doing kind of the opposite of most relationships where a lot of times we're saying, well, we can't give you that much. We're saying, no, let us give you more so we can get this up higher. Yeah. And you clap, and I think I know why. It's that we're all in it together to get to teach, but to also open the doors so it can get up to that level where we need it to be. However, we didn't want to tell him how to make the film. He is a filmmaker. He has his vision. He has the idea. He had a partner he was working with as well. So we don't want to come in and say, okay, we'll make it like this. But there are some guidelines that we have to give. So just give you that background. This film is called Raised, and we'll look at the clip.
The original Vinegar Hill housed various types of business and residents. There were some stores, a barber shop, beautician, and some seamsters, and some laundries.
There were people who owned property, there were businesses, there was a community where it was insular in many respects.
Like just didn't have enough power then to stop the Vinegar Hill?
Yes, well, true. And then local government was insensitive to the wishes and desires of people.
Chills run over me, and partially because I don't think everything is being shown the way it should be shown. There were businesses that needed sprucing up, but these were people who worked in the community, people who cared about the community.
The only thing I would add to that is that it aired on World, and I just wanted to say thanks to Chris if he's in here, because he was in here earlier. So there was
a little shout out there.
A little shout.
And last but not least, we have Melissa.
Thank you. So at South Florida PBS, we've got a couple of film-related projects happening. We're a producing partner for Real South. We've been working with Firelight on both the Hindsight project and Homegrown, and working with filmmakers through that. But our big initiatives come around our Filmmaker program. Filmmaker started out about 10 years ago as an idea between the former head of the content division and the local film commissioner in Miami. And they were talking about how important it is to try and start to develop the local film community. Because right about that time was when all of the state of Florida incentives went away for film. And so they were talking about it. They ended up writing up a grant to the NEA. We got funding through them. I came in about a year later and sort of picked up the project as we were starting to do the call for entries and go through the submissions and work with independent judges to go and review those projects. We ended up with 41 films the first year. We started to scale it back the next couple of years because we didn't have that same level of funding from the NEA. But we've managed over 6 seasons. We have taken 125 locally made South Florida films by South Florida filmmakers of all ages, from 14 to 77. Primarily, over half of those filmmakers were minority POC filmmakers, and almost half of them were women. So really great to see this as a very leveling project that heard from all folks in the community. It is both a narrative and documentary film. There's in my notes there. So it's been really great to share those through NEDA. Our call for entries for the 7th season is going to start in December. And let's take a look at Filmmaker.
The spot. The ultimate spot.
It's a story that really needs to be told.
I can do this.
Espérate, ¿cómo es posible?
I know, madness, but have no fear.
So thank you. These films over those 6 seasons, the level and quality of the films has just grown and gone up dramatically. The first season was many amateur films, and then it really started to grow. And so as this project continued to develop, we really started to think about, well, how can we take that and apply it to student filmmakers? And we came up with a project called Flip the Script, and we did it first year was in Broward County. We sought out 5 high school filmmakers, sophomores and juniors, for an 18-month program. First 6 months of the program, they went through story development. 3 of them did narrative films. 1 of them did a documentary. And they worked through this process of developing their stories. Then we took them in the field. They worked with a professional crew. They called the shots. They had a filmmaker mentor, a local working filmmaker, many of the ones that we chose from our filmmaker program, to help them along the way and be with them on the days of shooting and to prep for the shoot. So it's worked out really beautifully, and we are in the process of expanding it to a 2nd county. We're putting the applications out now for Flip the Script, and we hope to work with 11 student filmmakers and finish their projects. The half hour from the first season in Broward is going to be distributed through NEDA this year. So we're really excited about that. And can you roll our Flip the Script second?
Thanks for the motivation.
Finally. The whole entire time I felt really supported.
It was pretty fun. Like, it was my first time.
Watching it play after all the effort is cool.
It was a dream come true.
You get to do what you love, or like try to do something new.
It's an experience I wouldn't trade for anything else.
This has been one of my dreams, and it shows me that I can get there. It's incredible.
Thank you. So I just want to say quickly, 2 of our students from that season went on to, got into University of Central Florida Film School, and another one got into Emory with their films. So really excited to see that impact. and to see them grow.
Wow, thank you. Thank you for sharing that impact. And this clock's right that I'm staring at. I think we have some time for Q&A, correct? All right, we are running on time. So, some basic rules for Q&A. Ask a question that will be beneficial to everyone in the crowd. So if you have a specific project, hold on to that and grab us afterwards to talk about your specific project. Please ask a question that is, maybe more process-oriented, or any questions for those of us who work in distribution and work in mentoring individual filmmakers. I saw a hand up right here.
The mic is here. Let's come and get your second. If you raise your hand, just raise it again.
Hi, Chris Holmes, Alabama Public Television. I have a question for you all, particularly with respect to the submission portal in that process, that I think the answer will be informative for me, but I think also for the filmmakers in the room. We are sort of working to develop a similar process at our station, and one sort of consideration is when a project is greenlit, currently our sort of haphazard way is that we have things that are occasionally commissioned, that we own the rights to, we secure the funding, et cetera. But then, of course, there are the things that sort of come in through the transom, so to speak, that are already produced, and we kind of, evaluate their viability with respect to standards and practices, et cetera. But going forward, trying to develop more of a process where we are part of the production and, offering mentorship and all of that kind of a thing, something that obviously needs to be understood and agreed upon by all parties, is what is the relationship with respect to ownership of the content and that sort of thing. Can you speak a little bit about that from both perspectives?
I can jump in real fast. Basically, yes. So everything that you can think of can be worked out. So what I mean by that is we can do distribution deals, and so I think the plan is think about distribution, think about ownership, think about, if you're making a film already and you're getting funding, just remember with us, you have to list everyone that's funded your film, everything from even crowdsourced. I mean, you got to go get the names. We've worked with people like that, where they have to go back and they track everybody down and list it all up. So what we do is we offer distribution, and the distribution can just be local. It can go through American Public Television, it can go through NETA, it can go through a bunch of ways where it can get out nationally. There are a lot of specifics about that. But if it's ownership, then you typically want us to probably fund quite a bit of your film. If you want us to own it, then you probably want us to pay you a pretty good penny for it, or for the production itself. So it really comes down to, what do you as a filmmaker want from the public media station that you're communicating with? And anything from distribution from 1 year, 7 years, 10 years, all of it should be worked out. But I think as a public media station, we have to be aware that we're not going to own everything, and we don't always want to. But it is kind of we like having more time with it. So the longer that we have, the better. But
I'll just add one thing. As far as distribution, for us, it's non-exclusive. Our goal is to get as many people connected as possible. So we would love to be able to air it first and be its premier station. But outside of that, we want filmmakers to get to as many people as possible. So we are not trying to hold on to those rights. And so that is a big selling point, I think, for us. And then we'll invest in your program in other ways. So if we're going to distribute it nationally, we invest in station relations campaigns and connecting it to programmers across the system. Or like with When Giants Walked Here, we make an investment in the back end in the marketing and the promotion of it. So oftentimes, you might be able to connect with another distributor, but you're one of 1,000 different projects and you're not getting top billing. But selecting us and being a part of our ecosystem, you are the cover of our monthly program guide that goes out to 90,000 people. You're getting paid advertising behind this project. You're on the front of our website, our app. So that's where we make investments for a lot of those projects that come in for distribution.
With our Filmmaker program, we do a 2-year license on the films, just to keep it simple. And we're also very flexible. If one of the filmmakers comes back to us and says, I've got this phenomenal opportunity, if we've already taken it and it's aired nationally and it's aired locally and we're getting close to the end of that 2 years, we'll find a way to make it work for you and let you get on to the next level with your project.
Yeah, same with Atlanta, especially with Atlanta on Film, 2-year licensing agreement, non-exclusive, and it kind of brings another life back to the film if it's already gone through the circuit, through the film festival circuit. But also at the end of that 2 years, we may, like, we're actually working on reformatting the show in a way that maybe we just show the episode or the short or the feature, whatever it is, during our time on our regular here. So there's a lot of chances to continue giving life to the films.
Okay. Courtney, did you want to chime in, or you're okay? Okay. All right, we got a question over here.
So I got...
This question really is for Melissa. When you made the comment about the problems that you have with the funding or the standards, you said unless, and I'm not sure if you misspoke, but I guess being around here, I understand that a lot of public broadcasts tell stories from people in a certain community, not somebody talking about a community, people from within the community. So I'm a little confused if you can't be in the community, or can you explain what that unless?
So what I was saying was, if I funded the film, then I cannot star in the film and be a voice of advocacy in the film, because that would be pay for play. But if, say, I'm telling a story like a biography of myself as this amazing public television producer, it will, if I'm funding that and I'm telling my own story, then it is my story to tell. And there's not how do I say that? There's not a conflict there.
Would you like me to help you out there,
yeah,
Melissa?
Cute.
Okay. Do we have an extra mic? Because Talia could probably...
I was going to say,
really,
a person who can...
a person that does this nationally is here in this room with us. So if you want an expert, here, go ahead, Talia.
Thank you, Talia.
Well, and I don't want to take all your time.
No, please, you got about...
Another question,
sure.
But you get at sort of one of the key things that we deal with a lot in standards and practices. And so on the one hand, you can fund a program and then appear in the program or have a pay-to-play situation. But at the same time, we love an autobiographical film that a producer, makes about their life. We had a great one through Independent Lens recently called Shut Up and Paint. And you can self-fund your own project if you're a producer who, is in there making the film about their own life, your own experience. So I think both are possible. We want to be transparent with the audience no matter what and make it clear what's happening. But the devil's in the details. So if you want to talk afterwards about your particular project, I'm happy to.
We have time for one more question? Okay, one more question.
A snappy question. Snappy question.
You got a 30-second answer.
I wanted to know just a little bit more about, how do you submit? What exactly do you submit?
So that's a bigger question, and maybe I can just answer for all of us. So each station has a different submission portal if they have one. So if you just, Google's going to be your best friend here. If you are looking to submit nationally, PBS National has a submission page as well. So it's all there, basically. It's pretty clear. All these submission portals are built pretty well. You wanted to say something up on them?
My email.
Okay. I don't know if everybody wants you to email them, but so please try using the submission portals when possible. All right. Well, there are several stations. Oh, sorry, Courtney. Yes, go ahead, Courtney. Sorry.
Please come see the Work in Progress tomorrow night, 7:30. Nathan Willis film for Arkansas PBS, the Johnny Cash and Daisy Bates film. So come and see it.
All right. And on that note, there are many stations who are not represented, who are part of this beautiful network of stations, many in the South. And, they are not represented on this stage. So like I said, just go on any search engine and start looking to see what each individual station can offer you. You may not be from any of these states necessarily, and you might want to work with your home state, and we're so glad that you spent your last hour with us. Thank you.
Thank you all. Thanks.